welcome to this session regarding VanSvs Visual Suite and processing of sales commissions. This is VanSvs, and I'm going to be walking you through the daily processing or the regular processing, the sales commission reports, as well as the setup of the underlying tables and files that feed into those reports so that you'll have a working knowledge. Now, this information is all also available and used in the same way in CharacterBase, but I will be focusing on the Visual Suite options today. To begin, I usually like to start with the sales processing the way you'll actually use it, and then work backwards into some of the underlying files. We have available for you at request flowcharts that are also very helpful in going through this process. I do not issue them as a part of this, nor do I refer to them, but you're certainly welcome to request them if you like to work from a flowchart. Start with first here is the transactions that you may periodically use. For instance, I'm going to go in and calculate my sales commissions. I'm going to run it with a blank for the beginning date, meaning I want all new items, but I'm wanting to use a cutoff date, let's say, of May. I'm going to focus on month 5. I'm doing it this way is because I have made some adjusting entries to sales commissions from April items or March items as well. But I may have processed them after I had already closed or issued reports for those individual months. So I want to be sure that all new and previously unapproved items are showing up on this report with the date of 5/31. This is a calculate-only process. And here, calculated, I want to then go to the report in the sales commission statement. Then you can see that it says you have already calculated these for month 5, beginning date of blank and an ending date of 5/31. If I wish, I can run this just for a particular salesperson or a range of salespeople. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and run this for a smaller subset and just for salesman 841. I have some data on this that I want to look at, and I don't need to run this for different people right now to take a look at it. So sending this back to a print preview so that you'll be able to view this with me. Just create for me a PDF file that I can view and bump up the size just a little bit so it's easier to read. So first I'm just going to spend a little bit of time explaining to you the information that's on this, and then we'll begin to work backwards and take a look at what fed it. The sales commission report is shown by salesperson, and within the salesperson, it's shown by order type or commission type. Now, in this case, I have sales commission type 1, which is for, in my case, all allied household goods shipments. Shipment will be shown. Each will be shown the revenue book date. And notice that here's some examples of some things that perhaps I did some adjustments on or that came in after I had already closed the April settlement, showing some calculated values. Now, one you'll have that we'll talk about later is the ability to pay a salesperson their commission only if I have been paid in full by either the shipper directly or by the van line, depending on the shipment type. In this case, I have not set up to pay only if I'm paid in full, and therefore these columns that you see here really are irrelevant to the decision. Columns then take a look at each of the shipments. They take a look at the type or the commission type involved. They do a calculated value of a percentage and a commission amount. amount. So for instance, here on this Bustamante Andrew, I'm with a booking or origin commission. Apparently I was paid $647.35 by the van line, and I'm giving 45% of that to the salesperson. In addition to that, I'm paying for some packing labor. Apparently I billed at $480, and I'm the salesperson 8.5% or $40.80. That's a little misleading on this. Each of these is indeed the VAT for each shipment. But in the case where you've got a multiple line shipment and you see those values here, order total will only appear if there are more than one line for the order, and order total only involves those two lines for that order. It also is showing the gross sales just for that order in here. So getting used to, but that's what is there. In the case of Aaron Evans, you'll notice that I have 3 separate lines, including some other labor. Maybe this was an accessorial charge, a shuttle service, something like that, where I'm showing the compensable value, the percentage as and the commission amount. So the reason we have an order total here is because there was more than one line of attributable revenue on that job. Continue then down through this report, you can see that this particular person had an awful lot of allocated household goods, but you can also see the total commissionable values and the total commissions paid as a subtotal on this report. Next one then, I'm getting into my international shipments. I do have one international shipment. Looks like I was paying only 5% of the booking and origin commission. Like I'm paying a very, very, very small percent of hauling, loading, and delivery. Then the commercial job. In this particular case, I may be paying my salespeople a percentage of the first month of storage. This did not do a calculative value, so apparently I don't have a commission set up, and you'll be able to see the cause and effect of that as we get into the setup. It's interesting. This tells me that my local jobs are probably not set up completely. It also shows me that only my insurance values have been printing on this report, and that I'm not paying a percentage of. As we get into some of our additional setup, we have some other parameters that we can set so that these items do not go up. I wanted you to first see the general layout of the sales commission statement, and I'm going to now work backwards to take a look at what feeds into that. Sales commission statements are among some of the easiest things to set up. Now, if we do set up the sales commission program, this is a way the program was written years ago that allows you to set up a sales commission structure with some incentives built into it. And when the calculation of the commission takes place, it's looking at a table to determine how to calculate the commission, and you're then just given a commission report. The nice thing about it is that it does not perform any type of expense accrual for those commissions. It simply is taking a commissionable value times the commission percentage, but allows you to edit that before actually closing out the statements for a month or a given reporting period of time. Now, I say that that's the nice thing about it. The drawback about it is that at processing commissions, you don't have the regular recognition of the commission expense going into your general ledger in the same month, if you will, that the revenue is being recognized. So some people say, well, I don't really like that. I would prefer that they go in at the same time. So many people today are setting up their salespeople as commissioned employees or commissioned people. And I use the term people to include both commissioned drivers, commissioned salespeople, so that they get a commission report at the end of the month. And we know that those commissions have been expensed in the ledger while being accrued. This does put a lot of responsibility then on your people that are doing the billing, knowing that they effectively could override those percentages. They could override the amounts that are paid to the salesperson just like they could a commissioned driver. So you'll want to discuss those two options very clearly with your customer support person. I generally suggest that people do this, even if you're going to pay them as though they were a commissioned driver or salesperson, and let revenue and accounting take care of that. They still set up a sales commission structure that the system calculates so that you can compare the two and identify perhaps discrepancies the way things have been set up, or so that you can set up the incentives and track the incentives and see whether or not they're being met. So that's the way I'm going to set this up today. A long-winded way of telling you that there's more than one way to skin a cat, and the process is up to you. What I'm going to do here is go into the maintenance program and first take a look at my general control file, the options and interfaces. What I've done here is I've set up the descriptors for my 8 columns of information on the sales report. Typically, these are all of the groupings, if you will, of commission types that I might want to pay. Keeping in mind that when I'm setting up percentages to pay for this given column, I want the commissionable amounts to populate the report. So when they calculate times the set commission, they're calculated correctly. One where the individual wants to pay in origin commissions. It would typically be for your van line shipments. They pay hauling, loading, and delivery services. Those would probably be for your intrastate, locals, your cartage or drayage, anything that's transportation related. Indeed, you do pay your salesperson or want to report values for insurance that is sold. You can still indicate that I want to group that information, but I may not be calculating a value on it. Labor is another common one because your salespeople sell it. Some people pay a storage commission on the first month, but they may also pay storage commission for recurring months. And those commission percentages may be different. Therefore, the two would be broken into 2 separate columns so that a separate percentage could apply to each. And then finally, other labor or miscellaneous sundry type accessorials. Now, this does not mean that I'm paying them 100% commission of what I'm billing. What it means is 100% of it is commissionable. So I may indicate that I want to populate that column with 100% of the amount billed. I'll set up tables for the commissions themselves, which is next. Now, do I want to show a commission paid only if the orders are paid in full? And this is a overall control for most every salesperson, but you have the ability within the salesperson file that we'll be setting up next to override that and say, ignore my standard. I'm going to pay the salesperson differently. Then, if you want non-commissionable items to print on this commission statement, you can do this. Otherwise, you probably don't really want to be showing the salesperson everything that you're not paying them a commission on. You probably really just want to show those items you are paying a commission on. I generally do not check that box. Additionally, when you're showing the items, I like to see my sales items in detail. set that up or made those changes in descriptions, I'm going to click on Save. Line haul value, typically, is a description of the line haul amount on a job, regardless of the breakdown of commissions that are being paid. In a way, it would allow you to input a revenue line or a descriptive line that says, this was a line haul on the shipment. I only be getting booking, but at least I'm able to track the line haul that went through this office. And that line haul. Next one that you would be setting up is the salesperson file. Okay, so I'm going to pull up, again, salesperson 841 because that's the one that I'm working with right now. If you wish to link a customer service rep to that salesperson, you can through your customer service reps and you can assign a default customer service rep. That way, if you're adding a job in order entry and you indicate that this is your salesperson, it'll automatically populate the customer service rep as the person that you've listed here. Here I've then also listed, even though it's 841 is my salesperson number internally, I've linked it to my van line ID that the van line recognizes on that salesperson. And it is primarily used for the automatic download of registrations from your van line system, so that when it sees this number come through, it knows how to create it within your system. Now, something that is new that's not available in character base, and that is if you have a salesperson who becomes inactive, they may have a lot of records on them out there, but they've become inactive for further use. You can put in an inactive date, and that way, if somebody tries to assign them as a salesperson on a job, it will not allow them to because they have become inactive. The password section here is for Sales Track, a different module. This is the appointment scheduling, but you would be able to use either the master schedule or you're able to say this salesperson is only available for scheduling on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Again, that has to do with Sales Track. Important here is, do I want to pay this salesperson only if I have been paid in full by customer or by the van line? Be very here. Now, this is a very good incentive for the salesperson to provide an accurate estimate, to provide a positive service to the account once they've sold it, and maybe even get involved in the collection process if they have to, because their commission is riding on that. A mixture of both lines of thought out there in the market today. Now, this is where you would put in the default percentage for that salesperson only if this percentage would apply regardless of the order type. Well, we know that on a local job, you're not going to pay them on booking and on hauling. So I generally suggest leaving all of these blank, and I'll show you in the next screen where you actually will be setting these up. There's been no setup of any incentives or anything else on this screen. It's just getting a number out there, a name, and really determining whether or not you want to pay them only if you're paid in full. So we do have a little bit of information here. All right. Now, we really want to take a look at all those commission types. Now, I do have types that are set up, and I have set up my commission types on a one-to-one basis with my order types. And referring to order entry, if you were to go into an order entry screen, for those in order entry in VS, call that you have an order type. As you're entering that order type, it probably is populating your commission type as the same code. However, what if you had local COD as the order type and remains consistent, but you have a commission structure that's maybe one of 3 different types of local CODs. Maybe you have local CODs that are within a 50-mile radius. You have others that are within 100-mile and another within 150 miles. Or maybe you have your local CODs where it's or just local jobs. You have a local COD, local national account, and local something else. Or maybe it's based on the percentage of discount that you give, and therefore the commission that the salesperson gets is going to be different. So you can set up multiple commission types, each one of which could be used with the job type or order type. It's up to you to be sure that your person entering the order puts in the correct commission type for the salesperson during the order entry process. Said, if I were looking at just local COD, you'll see that it's really little more than just a code with more descriptive value here. I get up as a one-to-one. So once you've done that, you can actually go in and set up your commission rates. I fill mine in for salesman 841, and I'm just tabbing forward here to show you my first rate that I have set up. So I'm setting up, and by the way, you do not have to set up a commission structure for every commission type. You really only need to set those up for those commission types that this salesman might be responsible for selling. So for instance, this salesman may only go out on interstate and jobs to be sold. So I'm looking at here, these are the columns that you see here that the headings were set up over in the very first setup screen we went into, options and interfaces. And what I'm doing is I'm going to say, okay, my line here, what percentage that I want to pay for these services. So interstate job, I'm going to pay 45% for booking, 8% my packing labor, 10% on my first month's storage, 9% on the recurring storage, 15% on anything that falls in this category of other. These are my base calculations. Now then, what's set up? A structure that says the salesperson reaches $100,000, to increase this to 45.5, this goes up to 9%. This to stay at 10%, and notice I'm filling it in again if it's a commissionable item, and this other goes to 16%. But that in order to arrive at the $100,000. There, what you're looking at is you're saying, I want this cutoff on a year-to-date basis. Columns 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, all added together to make up the 100,000. Well, if I said all I'm interested in is the booking, by the way, it's not the 100,000 is not the commission I'm paying them, it's the commissionable. So if I had $100,000, let's say, pretty much of commissionable booking that I'm paying them 45% of, then I want to show it as that. If I said, you know what, I only want it to be booking, and this is date, remember, booking, packing, and other, that would be 2, add up columns 2, 5, and 8 at the $100,000. Do not compare each of them individually to the 100,000. You're selecting them together in congruent, in total, congruent, at the $100,000. And my pay basis, apply it only to sales over the cutoff, so that it cutoff of $100,000, and then this only applies to the values over 100 as opposed to being retroactive to everything. Considerations to make. Then I might come down here and say at 500,000, I want this to 50%. This will still be 10, and this to be 20. I'm giving some real incentives to really boost those sales. Now then, you can also set up, and notice how I've got 5 different levels of commission cutoffs. I also have 5 different levels of additional bonuses that could be used independent of this. Here I've said I want to pay a $5,000 bonus, reach $750,000, and you know what? No, I'm going to leave that at $100,000. Positively, apply the cutoff to a year to date. There. Okay, and then I'm telling it I want to include all columns, not just 2, 5, and 8. Do we require the prior award and not be shown here, but I could say give a $10,000 bonus, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I must have given them the prior award. Our award number 1 will have had to have been issued before this one is eligible. Probably not the best logic, but it kind of gives you an example of what it's talking about there. That. Now, as I take a look at another type that this salesman might be handling, national jobs, I'm 50% booking, 6% on the loading and delivering services, 50% of any insurance sold, no storage, packing, or other, no cutoffs, no bonuses. And I am going to go with a year-date basis on this as well. You could do an order-by-order basis. So I was talking about the local CODs. I could say I'll pay you 10% of the hauling up to a $600 local job, and then I might pay you a different percentage if the job is more money than that, etc. Apply it on an order-by-order basis to see whether the cutoff has been reached as well. And so here I might say $600, $1,500, $10,000, etc. And then do another job type. What I want to do here is go ahead and add one for my local CODs. One record for 841. I'm going to indicate that this is for my commission types, and actually I'm going to set that as commercial, I believe. 8. I generally go ahead and put in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here I'm going to indicate, okay, it's on a commercial. It's not going to be booking. It's probably all of the hauling is going to show up here. And I'm going to pay a 15% commission on that. I'm going to go ahead and give them a little bit of a commission here on the insurance. And be normally just an hourly basis. They're probably not storage or packing, but I might give them 10% of other accessorials. If I make a change here, of these, go out and do my calculate of my sales commission, the effective rate in all transactions that are open right now. So one thing you want to be sure you've done, if you're getting ready to raise the rates and you say, but if they only apply from one period beyond a certain date, you want to go ahead and be sure you've calculated the commissions and paid them up to that date before you change the structure. And for any and all salespeople, depending on what you want to have happen. Commission rate file. As you're going in and you're getting ready to do your sales calculations, come back in as though it's the end of the month and I'm wanting to go ahead and run this. So I'm going to calculate my sales commissions again, just for month 5, begin of the month through, and you can type this in as well as pull your this way. Calculate. Now let's go take a look at the report. This 841 again. I'll talk to you about the values that appear on the report. Slides. Too much attention here, but here I'm looking at an international. Anyone want to take a look at this 0.70? I'm wondering if that should have been 7.0 instead on an international. Job, but I'm seeing here that only this value is showing up on the report with no commission. And so let's go take a look at some of these. Look at commercial job here. So I'm going to make a note here that job number that you see on the left is CS 1577, and remember that it's for salesperson 841. Now, the report is only showing $30 worth of information in the first month of storage. To modify some of the things that you see there, I want to go into transactions. Look at the sales item. Here, you'll pull up the salesperson and the order number that telling you is the way the information is populated. So if you say, okay, that was for revenue that was booked on 5/6, but you want to show it as 6/6, maybe it's in the wrong month, you can change it here. You could even say that you want to go ahead and put it on hold, or it indicates that the calculation indicated that it was paid in full. Now you'll notice then that what you've got here is each of the commissionable values is in the first column. If I determine that that $30 should not have been under storage first month, but should have been up here under hauling, I can move it up here, remove it down here, and the record. So all this is doing is showing the commissionable value. And you may say, well, how did those values get there in the first place? And we'll show you that in a moment. On how the revenue codes are set up. Each code is linked to one of these columns. And only if the commission rate structure says take a value in that column times this percentage does it actually pay anything, but it may still be good for information to accumulate the totals even if you're not paying a commission on them. So here, change that up to hauling. And you can move forward through the records. This is showing these are each of the values that are subject to a commission, if indeed there's been a commission file set up. So having made that little bit of a change, let's go in and calculate the commissions again. And notice that you do have to recalculate because you've made a change. then I'm going to go in and print the report. And that each and every one of these things that I'm doing right now, none of this has posted to general ledger. These are all values that are calculated commissions because they're not in the general ledger yet. At the end of the month, I could go ahead and accrue them by a journal entry, debiting a commission expense and crediting a salesperson payable. That would at least get the expense into the correct month, offset the revenue that I recognized when I put it in. And of course, is just to send that value over to your payroll department and let it show up in the month when they actually are paid. That's two, especially if you're a cash basis taxpayer. Going to the job now, and because I moved the $30 into a column that has a commission value attached to it, it's now taking the $30 times the 15% and doing a commission of $4.50. Also notice that there's this column called unpaid commission. This would be if I have set up a salesperson to be paid only if I'm paid in full. It would still show the amount that I billed. I'm highlighting more than I want. The amount that's been paid so that I could see that I had not been paid in full. It would still show the $450, but it would show up over here in the unpaid commission column. It will continue to show in that column each month until such time as these are paid, and then it will show up in the commission amount in order to be paid. As we get to the bottom of this report for just this salesperson, after it's gone through each of the individual order types, it's to the very bottom and it does a summary for me. And it's for all of the allied types, here is commission, national commission. For the commercial one we just looked at, here's a commission of $450. And it says for this reporting period, using that cutoff that you've used, this is the amount of the commission due the salesperson for that reporting period of time. If I decide that this is what I want, also I can get at the very bottom if I run it for all salespeople that shows me total commissions paid during that period of time. And then a management perspective. If you determine that the sales commission rates or the sales commission reports are correct, and you have calculated them through a month end, then have the ability to go in called a month-end sales report and update. Notice it's got the word update there. We'll take the month sales, give you a report that has all the details on it, the year-to-date for each salesperson by order type, as well as the comparison of this year's year-to-date versus last year's. In addition to that, this report not only shows the commission you have paid, but also essentially the gross revenue in sales. I'm going to show that to you here. Notice I'm running it for month 5, no beginning date, meaning it's for month end through 5/31, and this will only close this if indeed I run it for all sales people. Have run it and approved it. The totals get moved in a bucket of totals on the reporting, and you no longer will be able to prepare this report in exactly the same format. So what you're looking at here, I ought to go ahead and just go down to 841 so we can keep apples here. See, I have people in my salesman file. Here, you're looking at by order type. And instead of giving you the name because of the limited space, it's just saying order type 1. That was my allied date. Notice that each value is shown as its gross value, its commissionable value. This is how much revenue I recognized on this. This is not what I paid to the sales person. Me totals by order type. So my commercial job, that $30 over into a hauling or a loading and delivery instead of storage, you see that value here now. And to the bottom of the salesperson, you see the totals for each of the order types. These are revenue values. Here, you get to the current pay, and you see that for the month of May, here's what I paid in commissions, regardless of what the revenue was for the current month. In the example that I'm using here, I'm working with data that only has current year data, but if it did have data from 2012 or 2013 rather, I see those values here under the prior, I say the prior year for the month of May and prior year to date, so that I have a current year to date, May this year versus the month of May last year. So you get a nice comparative value to see, are they selling as much in this order type this year they were last year? And then, of course, what is the current pay? And to a grand total summary. And you go to your next salesperson, it shows the same information. Again, you do not want to update this report unless you determine that it contains everything you want. Notice that because I did run this for all salespeople for the month of May, when I click update, I'm just going to take the archive information and put it into its appropriate section so that it can be compared to May next year when I reach that point. Then now, because I've closed that month, if I go in to calculate my sales commissions, the current month is 6. So I incremented it from 5 to 6, and it's now ready for me to do the same thing using a June if I wish. And by the way, you can cut these off any period of time that you want. I just happen to use end of the month. So now I'll expect to see nothing from those April and May transactions unless I have some adjustments that get made. Looking at the report. Now in this one, I may go ahead and run this from my beginning to my ending salesperson just so that I can see everybody. Okay. Some probably old salespeople here. June. Apparently, the data that I'm working with here had some April and May information in it, but I brought it over before I input any June. So that's kind of interesting. What we have here then, that is the completion of this. If you do decide that you implement the sales commission reporting in a nice, clear way, contact someone on your support team that can assist you in the setup. It really is pretty simple to set up. It takes a little bit of thought. The thing is, once it starts calculating, you always have the ability to modify how it's calculating, and that has no effect on the general ledger, at least under the one assumption of setup. And I think that you'll find that you would really become reliant on this and not only internally for management, but also as you use this as a reporting tool for your sales people. My name is Byron Best with CompuSource. I'm available here at 770-564-0060. Feel free to call me. Joining me for this training session today on VanSvs Visual Suite Sales Processing.